but the whole overview would be a good one. I mean, if you can just go, because I think, because we did a lot of brainstorming last week when we did the, before doing the assessment, we went through some of the material, and it was also good. Like I already gave you feedback on that. So I think maybe if you just go through the process, and we can, before the end, just pop up a couple of concerns if we have them. Does that look fine for you?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Definitely. I just, since I've delivered this session so many times in terms of planning this and that, I don't want to go over things that you know for sure, but I think it's a better plan to start just going through the demo, and you stop me at any time.
Because, you know, we don't really have specific concerns as much as, like, because we were interrupted with going in the middle, not knowing really from the start how it will be. Sometimes we just jumped in, you know, like, because we were a little late on things, and then we started understanding the process in the middle, because we were late, and by the time we really observed what was going on, we were not very confident about the beginning and things like that. So maybe if you just go through the flow, it'll make life easier for everybody. I think it'll just give an overall, like a simple step-by-step how to go about it, and it'll look fine. Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm just getting started with Citrix, opening it up, and what I'm going to do is go through the UNOE scenario, maybe go through a STO scenario. We have 2 hours. I think we'll have enough time. Every aspect of planning, managing freight orders, managing events, and also some packing, okay? Because I know that with the sessions that we had together, maybe we didn't go over packing enough. So I think it's worth going through packing. Here we go. So let me just make sure. All right, it was just shut down on me. So I'm going to start with ECC first, and I'm going to go through the packing options and why that's important and how it's performed and so on. Let me just make sure that the font is big enough for everyone to see. And I think that's much better. Okay. Okay, so I'm basically going to go to ME23N just because that's the easiest way for me to search for my POs and STOs. And let's take a look first at a UNOE scenario. So I'm going to probably take a look at any POs that are requiring packing, right? So let's say I don't have the number of the PO, right? Let's say I'm starting from scratch, okay? So I'm going to exit this screen and go to VL06I, all right? And what I want to do is pull the list of inbound deliveries that I have, and I want to do basically a search from this date to this date. Let's say that's fine. And basically I would also, of course, it would be better if I add my plant so I don't have every inbound delivery out there, even though I don't think you have access to that if ECC is limiting you according to your role. But this is the training environment, so this is all I have, right? Basically, we can organize this by date. We have our dates from here: November, September, December. So pretty much that is, let me make sure that I can, okay, let me get out of there and let's sort this maybe a little bit. Here you go. So we have the latest first, okay? So I see my inbound delivery documents here that, according to what I have here, should have either already been processed or not. We're going to go checking one by one and see. But let me start with maybe the 20th December, as this is the one that is closest. I see the name of the vendor. I see that it's FCA. I see the PO number here, 99044. So I can basically just click on this inbound. And let's take a look at this inbound delivery document, make sure that it's packed, right? Let's understand if it's packed or not, which you may be familiar with packing or not. But it's also important that we review the TM status tab here for those of you that will be having access to ECC, updating inbound delivery documents, usually performing packing. And if you're not, it's actually worth it to take a look at how this works, right? So we basically know that now that TM has been implemented, we have a TM status tab that allows us to view any related documents or any actions that have impact in TM that we have done through ECC. So we have our material here, which is an ambulance in this case, that we don't know if it's packed yet or not. We don't know if it has generated any documents in TM or not. So we can check that first. We can go to TM status directly. We see that we have the inbound delivery document here. We click on document flow, and we have a set already of DTRs, freight units, and actually we have both the vendor delivered and the freight forwarder delivered transactions or documents. So we know this one has been completely planned already, and this is important that we recognize this because we have DTRs, freight units, and freight orders for both vendor and freight forwarder. So basically this one is done for, we would think, right? We also have the life cycle status, execution status, confirmation status, planning. So every other status that this freight unit can be under, or this inbound delivery can be under, is here too. So we see that it's partially in execution, which may tell me that some events have already been submitted. In process means that it has already been planned. So we know that it's been planned. Obviously, we see it here. And we know that maybe we're already submitting some of the events for some of these freight orders. We can even see further if we, let's say, go into some of these tabs here. So if we click on TM document, we can probably see if anything else has been, I think it's zoomed in too much. That's why we can't see much more to the right. We can also see the packing information. Remember this, let me go back to the other view here, item view. This packing button here, if it actually works, if it's not grayed out, that means that the packing was done correctly. I mean, at this stage, it's a bit too late because we see that the packaging is already there. We have the icon at the bottom for the freight unit and all the freight orders. But this packing button is the one we have to make sure is active when we do our packing. And I'm going to do that for any other inbound that I'm going to look for in a second, okay? But let's understand this first. We have this display. We're going to click on packing view. And now we're going to see that we have, again, some more information, all the packing details here. So it all looks quite good. So far, everything seems to be in order for this one, and it's too late for us to start packing anything there, okay? We have our item overview. Everything seems fine. So let me go back and look for another one. Instead of the 20th, let me go to the 22nd. And basically, I can just take a look at this inbound, which is the one ending in 33. I can go to the TM status again. So this is always something to do to ensure that things have been, to understand if things have been planned or not planned, okay, in TM. So right now, what we see here is that we have a DTR, we have the freight unit, and we have our freight orders. But they're vendor delivered freight orders. So these may not have been planned yet. It's very strange to just see two vendor delivered freight orders. This is probably from source location to handover that the system automatically plans, right? Because they're vendor delivered, but we still need the freight forwarder delivered stages. And we can take a look. We see that that's all we have, nothing more. The packing has actually not been performed. For this one, we see the button is still grayed out. I can't click on it. I can't access to any of the details. We see that the lifecycle status is in process and not started. Why does it say in process instead of in planning? It's because two of the legs have already automatically been generated. So the system interprets that planning has already occurred for this freight unit, even though it's not completely performed, right? It's only for the two first stages. So this is a perfect example of one of those that we can take, pack right from the beginning, add the packaging materials correctly, and move on to TM and start planning. Okay, so let's start with one of these because we realize that packing isn't done and we realize that the planning isn't done either. Okay, we can also click back here. We can see some information on the goods movement data, status overview. I mean, you all should be familiar with this, let's say, inbound delivery document. And now for your specific case in Minurso, some of these, I believe, had the wrong Incoterm, right? If I'm not mistaken, some of the issues, I don't know if you have one issue or two with inbound deliveries that have the wrong Incoterm. And you guys can always see the Incoterm if we click on the header details when we're looking at the inbound delivery, and we go to the shipment tab here, we can see that we have an FCA Incoterm and the handover location is Durban port. Okay, usually what we've been saying at the beginning of ramp up is to click on edit and mainly make a change directly here in the inbound delivery document to the Incoterm. But of course, this was generating more problems because eventually that wasn't the correct Incoterm that we were adding either. So the final decision was to get rid of the inbound delivery document, maybe even get rid of the PO and start the process again from scratch with the correct FCA, correct Incoterm, sorry, not FCA, right? But that's not that easy, right? You can't just go and say, okay, let me just delete the inbound, delete the PO and go on, right? What's important first is to understand, and that's what we've been doing, has this inbound delivery document generated documents in TM? Has it been planned already? And that's something we have to check first, right? And that's what I'm showing you. TM status, select the line, document flow, and first ensure, has this been planned already? Okay, in this case, this FCA has been planned at least for 2 stages. So instead of going directly and deleting your inbound and deleting your PO and starting again, because that will disrupt TM because you have all this already here planned, what we have to do is get rid of first the automatically generated FOs, and then we could cancel our freight unit document. I'm going to teach you how to do that too, okay, once we go into TM. So you can't simply just delete and start from scratch if things have already occurred in TM. If you only have your DTR and freight unit, then it's fine. You can get rid of your inbound and move on. So one of the first things is that take a look at your TM status tab first. Okay, let's go to packing now. Let's make this editable now, and let's go to our packing icon here, and let's make sure that we put this vehicle, which has not been packed, okay, this vehicle into a container, let's say. Now we could always just select the line and click on the packing, and this will make the system search for allowed packing materials automatically without you having to look through them and selecting the wrong ones, right? So in a sense, we click on yes, and the system will return a list of packaging materials. If you realize you have packaging materials that have, if I go all the way to the bottom, that have exclamation signs, weird symbols here, these are those that you shouldn't select when you're packing. You should always select the ones that you see at the top here with no other strange symbol, right? That's why when you go through the selection here, select the line and packing, the best ones or the correct ones are the ones that show first. And then as you scroll down, you're going to start getting the ones you shouldn't select, like, for example, the box with the exclamation and so on. So let's say that I'm looking for my container, and now my container should be available. Actually, we should have a rolling stock option to select from, because that's one of the new packaging materials that has been added to the master data. But in this case, we don't have rolling, or maybe I can say stock. I don't think it's been added yet to the master data in the training environment. So we don't have that option here. We're going to have to select a different one. So we have pallets, strapping, cold pack, shrink. We can take a look at containers if we can get our hands on one here before we get to the incorrect symbols. Here we go, container, right? So we have a container option. We make sure this is a 4x4. I'm not an expert, again, in selecting the materials, but you would basically have the option between a 20-foot container, 40-foot container. I think 20-foot is probably enough. We would simply select this line and tell the system that we're packaging that vehicle into this packaging material, and the system automatically generates your handling unit. Let's understand why we're doing all this, okay? So the packaging material we're selecting is automatically displaying, okay, the loading weight, the total weight and loading weight and tear weight and all the details related to the volume and so on, because this is maintained in master data. A lot of these, or the majority of these packing materials, are not their volume, dimensions, weight, and so on is not maintained in in ECC. And that's why we have to, in the handling unit, provide the details for the dimensions, weight, and volume. What we're doing is we're telling the system the complete weight of the material with the handling unit. So we're basically just transcribing the information provided by the vendor, or if this is an STO scenario, we're telling the system the weight, volume, and dimensions of the goods being transported, and we're doing this manually, okay, in both scenarios, UNOE and STO, so that when we go into TM, we can see the correct weight, volume, and dimensions of the goods that we're transporting. And why is that important? Because basically, it's important when we're quoting for the when we're soliciting for the carrier that is going to transport our goods, so that we get the correct information back from the freight forwarders and carriers. We need to be providing the correct data in terms of the weight, dimensions, and volume of our goods. The SOW, as we'll see later, only shows the dimensions, weight, and volume of the handling unit, which supposedly should include the goods themselves, right, as a total, and also the value of the goods being transported. So that's why it's important that we add the info under the handling unit. In this case, it's already done because it's maintained. So if I clicked on the handling unit and I went to weight, volume, and dimensions, all the data is practically there already. So I wouldn't have to worry about editing this because this one is maintained. Okay, but usually what it will show here is ones and zeros. So I would have to manually add this information here. And this handling unit info is the one that's going to reflect in TM as my material, weight, volume, and dimension. See, if I click on the material, 21, there's absolutely no difference between the data in the handling unit and the material. It's always the same. So whatever you're reflecting in the handling unit, that is what's going to impact TM. Okay, and that's what's going to impact your SOW, and that's what's going to impact your solicitation process, and eventually impact the actual cost that we're going to be adding to the freight orders later on. Also keep in mind that the rate tables that calculate estimation costs in TM for a freight order can be based on the gross volume as well as by the zones or lanes or locations that we're selecting in TM. But the default rate calculation is based on gross volume. So the gross volume that we've added in our handling unit by freight order is going to be calculated because that's the way it's done in TM. And we'll see that when we get to the freight order. Okay, we'll see how this, right from the beginning of the process, has a downstream impact all the way to the end of the process in TM. We see that our handling unit is here. If we want to make changes, we can do so. But basically, this is correct for me. So I can click on Enter and Save. And we should have inbound delivery is planned, TMA impact TM. Fine. We click on Enter again if this is a message that we get, a warning message. Now it tells us it has been saved. Fine. We can't save any longer. So what this is telling me is that this inbound data 22 December should now be packed. Our packing should have been done properly, and now we should be able to see the button for packing and click on it. Let's see. Basically, we take a look at our shipment. We see that the gross weight is reflected, volume is reflected, and all the data that we need basically is here. Okay, this is basically what we're looking for. We can click on the TM status tab. We can click on document flow, and now we should see the packing view button available. You see how now it's actually clickable. And when you access it, you have still, nothing has changed. You still have your 2 freight orders that are planned already, but now you have your packaging details. And also when I move over to my left, I have a package icon here that wasn't here before. See, if I minimize this, now I have the packaging leads my information. See, if I click on the package, I have my inbound delivery item, freight unit, and the freight orders. Now the packaging is there. Before I did this, the packaging wasn't there. The icon here wasn't there. And we can see this if I go back. This is the 333 inbound delivery. So let me go back and select the one for the next one here, the one for unmiss, 32 instead of 33. Okay, just to prove to you that if I take a look at the TM status tab, packing view is there, and we don't have a packing line now. So this has not been packed properly. Let's go back to our 3.3. We'll double click on this one. And once this one loads, the TM status tab here, document flow, we have our packing line here. See? So basically, and if I click on packing view, I can actually make that lead my say my display of columns here of the information in the columns. Okay, so I think This is clear. Okay, let's see how it, when we go downstream into TM, how what I just did now is going to impact all the way through to the end of the process. We're done with ECC. Okay, all we did was the packing, which is critical now for both STOs and for UNOE scenarios. We have our inbound, and that's pretty much all we need when we go into TM. Okay, it's our 1800753333. Okay, and now I should be able to log into TM and see this DTR. But now first, let me just make sure and see where the destination location is, where this is going, where it's coming from. So maybe I can go back to my PO here and see. So let me go back 33. Let me check the PO. I think it was right here. Okay, I think I can access it right from here. So the Incoterm is Durban Port. Okay. I still have my inbound delivery here. Okay. Let me see if any other window has opened. Okay, so for some reason the PO did not show here. Let me see if I can basically click on here, copy and paste this. All right, let me open a new window. Okay, ME23N. All right. Here we go. Now I'm taking a look at my PO. I just want to make sure I'm using the correct user when I go into TM. Okay, I just want to make sure my delivery address is for unmiss, so I should be selecting one for unmiss here. Okay. So let's see. Let me log into TM now. Okay, because basically I'm only going to be able to find my inbound delivery number if I'm logged in as the correct user, right? So the purchasing group, remember that, the integration element, the purchasing group is the one that is going to allow the planner to see the documents in TM, right? So if I'm not selecting my correct user here, when I go into TM, I may not even be able to see the documents that were generated. Okay, I think, if I'm not mistaken, maybe we can take a look. I think it's this one. Let me see. If not, basically, I have some prepared nonetheless, if I can't find this one. But I wanted to show you how to pack first. And remember, this is what TM looks like now. I can make this a little bigger for you guys. And if we search for our DTRs, remember the requirements for transportation that you should all be familiar with first, as the TS01s or TS07s, we can do so by searching by inbound delivery document or PO. Okay, remember for the inbound delivery document, we go to original delivery, which is right here, and we add our number, 75. Okay, make sure there's no other data that could confuse your search. And click, and if this is the correct user, I should be able to see it. Okay, but already I'm seeing that I don't have it. So imagine if someone had written the wrong purchasing group, the planner would not be able to see, writing the correct inbound delivery number, they wouldn't be able to see the document. Okay, so this is important for you guys to understand the impact of not adding the correct purchasing group. Okay, you see I can try it 1,000 times, that won't work. I can switch to other users to see if I'm just going to try one more time, and then we'll go and see the actual downstream process itself. Okay, so we have, maybe I use the ITML. Let me use one of these, and if it's not this one, then I'll just show you another one. Okay, because basically the process will be the same. Okay, so again, I'm searching for my inbound delivery document. 7533. Okay, so we have an 833 here. I don't think this is the right user either. Okay, so let me check the 833 just to take a look and see if this one is probably not. This one is planned to. Okay, guys, so eventually I'm going to show you guys a different one. All right, I'm going to log in with a different one so we can practice that. But packing has been clear. and we understand why it's important, and we understand the downstream process with packing. Okay, so let me go with another user, and maybe I'm going to select the same one here, but now I'm going to look for something else. I'm going to look by dates. Okay, so remember, if you don't have the inbounds, if you don't have the POs, if you don't have the information you need, but you're a planner and you know that there's some requirements that you need to plan for, remember that you're not limited to search by POs, STOs, inbounds, or outbounds. You can always just search by dates, right, to see if anything is pending. So I'm going to get rid of this guy, and I'm only going to add dates this time. Okay, delivery date from. And I'm going to say, well, I remember that from November 1st, there's something coming in, and I'm going to go to, I don't know, April 30th. So it's going to search for anything in between here in pending that maybe isn't planned or planned. So here we go. We have a ton of DTRs, inbounds, see, a ton. Well, not that many, but we have some here. Very important. A couple of things that you guys have to do in your search page to understand what is planned, what is not planned, what documents are linked to each other, and how you can cross-reference the linkage between them, right? So let's take a look. If you see to the right, we have the life cycle status. Okay, this life cycle status, if I select it, I can always move it over manually. And now I'll understand that everything I'm seeing here is actually either planned, canceled, or in planning. Okay. We also have another status that is very important, execution. Execution tells us if somebody has been submitting events or not. So we see that none of them have started. So no events have been submitted, but some have been planned, some are canceled, and some are in planning. We could always organize them. Sorry, I went too quick there. We could always organize them here and simply select, for example, I want only those that are in planning. And you see, we only have one. Now that I have this one in planning, I want to know more information. I want to know what Incoterm it is. I want to see the PO number, and I want to see other types of data that may not be displayed right here. Okay, so to do it all at once, you remember, click here on Open Settings Dialog, and right from here, the hidden columns can become visible. So one of them that is very important is your Incoterm, right? So let's say that we want to manually search. We can search like this, and we see Incoterm. Or in the majority of the cases, what works best is to go and say define filter and say Incoterm. And here it is. We can move it right here. We add, and we have our Incoterm. Okay, another one. So let's look for something else that may be important for us, the packaging details. So we have packaging status. See, this will also tell us if the items have been packed or not. I'm going to click on OK, and I'm going to go with this. Okay, so we see a couple of things here. We see that this packing status says not relevant. Okay, the packing status is actually what's going to tell you if the packing has been performed in ECC or not. Okay, and if it says not relevant, it means that it has not been packed. And watch, if I get the lifecycle status and I say all, you're going to see that for all the other ones, we have not relevant, and then suddenly at the bottom, we have completely processed. Okay, so maybe I just want to see the ones that are completely processed because those are the ones that are packed. So these are the only ones I should be planning for, the ones that are packed, completely packed and processed. We have our Incoterms, we have our DTRs, we have our type of document, which may be useless for us. So we could always get rid of this one here in the document type and get rid of that. And maybe what is more useful for me is to cross-reference with my PO. So I could always search for my PO here and say original order. There it is, and put it all the way at the top. Click on OK. And now I have my PO. I know it's packed. I have my DTR, my Incoterm, my inbound, planned inbound delivery. So all the information I need is right here. Okay, maybe I need the lifecycle status a bit ahead here, and maybe I need my execution status here. Now that to me would be what a good search page looks like if I want to know what to plan and what not to plan. So basically these I know are already planned. Let me take a look at these documents first. Okay, just to see the difference with the completely processed, the packaging between one and the other. If I click on the DTR, And I'm stressing on this a lot because this is something New York is stressing a lot too. We need to make sure that items are packed properly so that in the long run in downstream processes, everything is working well. The solicitation process is accurate and we're getting the actual cost that we are requesting for and not something that is completely out of whack with what we're planning and requesting. Okay. So we have here all freight forwarders delivered. If we see before, this, the one that I'm looking at is the 7979, which is the top one. We see that it was Ex Works Incoterms, so we could already see that from before. I'm going to drag this screen back here. We see the items here, and we maximize the screen. And if I go down to the bottom, I see my product. You see that we have the packing icon there too. This icon already identifies that there's been a handling unit generated in ECC and packing has been performed. The items in the packing, the product itself, which is a laptop, has been packed also properly. And we have our gross volume, gross weight, and so on. Okay, this, see the impact here. We see that all this information is correctly performed. Now, there's also another thing that is interesting for you guys to see is if that once you've done things properly, if you select the lines, below that there's another section that is going to give you the packaging details. You're going to see the package ID, you're going to see the volume, weight, and dimensions of each handling unit. The same thing for the product. If I select it, below it, it's going to also show you details on the PO, show you details on the net gross weight of the actual material, the product ID, what it is, the goods value. So very interesting information that is displayed here. Thanks that you have performed the packing properly in ECC. Okay, so the better you do things in ECC, the better the downstream impact in TM. If I click on one of these freight orders, right? These are planned already, but I just want to show you the downstream effect since this is packed. Remember the freight orders had a document called the SOW, right? So we're taking a look at it down here. I'm selecting the execution. Actually, I think this is for the events. So what I'm looking for is for the output management tab. And we are selecting the SOW short form for every item that is not a vehicle. If you have a vehicle, you should select the long form, okay, which is really just says UNOE air form. But anyway, there's two forms. One is for every other piece of material, and the other one, the one on the bottom here that is SOW form without short, is basically for vehicles. Since we're not transporting vehicles in this freight unit, we're going to just click on the short form here, document preview. And remember this document, very important because this is the one we're going to be attaching to the shopping cart for freight. It has the linkage between all the info between the PO, the inbound, and all the freight orders linked to it. This is what we're attaching for the solicitation. We basically have information on origin and destination location, whether it's the handover location or the final. In this case, since it's X-Works, it's the final location. If you look into the table here, you have the packaging material, which is wrap bubble. You have the packaging ID. You have the length, weight, height, dimension. So volume, weight, and dimensions of the handling unit. The weight per unit, okay, total weight per unit. You see you have nothing here for the actual material. The dimensions, weight, and so on are blank for the material. That's why it's important to add that info in the handling unit line. All we have is the goods value. Okay, we have 10 computers. We had the price before per each. Remember when I selected the product, we had the price as well here, and that's what's reflecting in the SOW that we see here. That's why it's important for all the info to be correctly added all the way from ECC. So imagine the downstream impact on the packing that this has had. Okay, you would basically download this PDF. You can edit the document later on if you want to add notes or make any changes to it. You can do that as well, and then attach this document to the shopping cart for freight when you're soliciting for freight. Okay? So that is why this is so important. Then when you go to the charges tab, remember that once we're editing charges, locations, and so on, in the charges tab, you would have, if this were working perfectly, you would have an estimated charge already calculated. And the estimated charge is a calculation that is performed in TM based, see, calculation based on gross volume. That's why it's important that the volume that you're adding to the handling unit is correct, so that the calculations and estimated calculations are correct as well. Okay, now the freight forwarder does never have to see your estimated calculations. These are just for TM, for the system to become smarter in terms of gathering data. Our estimated charges are really for ourselves, so that we know basically first how much more or less transportation is going to cost us for specific goods. And plus, if the vendor freight forwarder is asking us for too much, maybe if we have a correct estimated charge based on a correct route that we have planned, we can probably become better negotiators too. Okay, in this case, we don't have a estimated charge. I don't think the system displays that, but here's where we would add the actual charge later on as well. Okay, so this is a very quick, yes, Ina.
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I tried to find for a hand somewhere, and I sent you a question. And anyway, just now, when the information is not correct in the SOW, and that SOW is generated, when you were going to go and add and edit and add more information, you can go back and edit and add more information, right? That's my understanding.
Exactly.
Okay,
but yeah.
But will that generate? You'll have to delete that SOW and generate a new one, or what will you do exactly? I just got confused here.
No, that's a very valid confusion, and people are wondering the SOW that you have generated the first time, right? The one that we were looking at here, that one's going to remain there. Okay, no matter what changes you make to the form that you download and update, that SOW, yes, the initial one, the one we're looking at, is going to always be there. And it's going to remain the same. Okay, the new one, you will just attach it to the freight order. So what you can do is go to attachments later on. Remember with the events, we learned how to add attachments. So we can add this attachment to either the freight order, basically, we can add it here, or we can add it in the event. Remember the execution?
Yeah, but that means the one on the system will always be the the one with the missing information. So
the one that will be, yes.
Yes, so the one that is generated from the system, from the start, will be the one with the missing information. So unless I go and double check under attachments if there is another updated one, which I might miss to attach, probably, let's say, which is a relevant case, because a lot of times in a rush we don't take note of that, and then we don't attach the updated one. So other than that, it's not going to be in the generated area. It's only in the manually uploaded attachment area, right?
Exactly. When you see the one I'm displaying now, you would never substitute this one unless you delete the freight order and replan again. That's the only way you're going to get rid of this SOW.
Okay, so yeah, so we have to delete the freight order in this case if we don't want to have one with the missing information. Okay, exactly. And then you have just the other question was if you the new statement of work, that means the SOW that is not gonna be generated from the system. You're gonna edit the one that is already there, do an edit like a Word document thing, and then you upload it, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah, so you take the old one, you put it in a Word document or whatever format, and then you update the information that is missing, and then you upload it as an attachment.
Exactly. It's exactly what it is.
Okay, I was just brainstorming with you and clarifying to everybody and clarifying to myself as well, confirming to myself as well. Okay. So
that's what this session is for, definitely. So let's do that. The more we do that during this session, the better. Okay, I would actually prefer, honestly, that this document could be edited here in the system itself. So if I wanted to make changes, I could just do them from here, and it just tracks who does them. That would be very useful, because then this SOW is always going to be the latest version. If we keep downloading, updating, attaching, then, oh, I made another mistake, download again, change again, upload again, we may end up at a point where we're going to have 3 or 4 SOWs. I'm thinking, I don't know how
No, no,
how
no. So I
crazy
mean,
it can get in the
no,
mission.
no, no.
But
I understand. No, but is that feasible? I mean, you can edit that document that is there and then save it, and it'll take that and stay there.
no, that was my wish. That's what I wish was possible.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
yeah,
I thought that because I mean, it's like that, like you're saying, that's the best practice because then you won't be confused with too many documents. And at the same time, not many times you go to the attachments. You normally just go and look at the SOW that is already popping up and showing there. You won't, I mean, it's an extra step to go and search under attachments. So, so that's something you can probably request or recommend, you know, like to have an editing mode on the scope of work and then the SOW, and then you can at least and it could trigger who did that update. So I mean, it could have a tracking mechanism to see who updated what and when and where, and or for the planner to have that role to be able to edit that particular document, for example, or a particular person has only that role to do that editing or whatever, something like that. So yeah, I agree with you.
exactly.
Thanks. Yeah,
Exactly.
thanks.
We'll
Thanks.
definitely request it. I'm sure that someone else has already requested this too. And for some reason, it's not available yet, or maybe it will never be. I'm sure there's a reason behind it, but we'll see. We never know. TM is changing all the time. There's doing updates to it constantly. It's a very young system, so it could be, and I think it would be the best way would be an editable SOW here. Okay, but very good question. Interrupt me at any time. It is true there is no hand to raise, so I'm not going to hear the beep. I'm looking at the chat every once in a while, but I didn't see your question there, Zina. So just unmute yourself and speak up, okay, in this case. Okay, so we've seen this. We've looked at the freight orders. We're understanding the impact of packaging and having all the correct information. So I think let's go and let's plan something, okay? And I'm going to go and plan something for an STO, okay, just because that's what I had prepared. Again, it doesn't really make a difference whether we're planning an STO or anything else. The process is the same. So I'm just logging in now with the user here 66 because it's the one that I have for an STO. And we don't really cover STOs too much in our trainings because we're always focused on UNOE, but STOs are also very used in the missions too, right? So the transfers are happening nonetheless, and it's important to understand them too. So again, I'm back in the same screen. Nothing changes, whether it's an STO or a UNOE scenario. The screens, the clicks, and the actions are all the same. The only difference is this. If in this case, this is an STO scenario, I am the TS07 instead of the TS01, and I'm the planner in the receiving mission, because the only difference or the major difference between UNOE scenarios and STO scenarios that the Incoterms, remember this from back in our training, that was so long ago you may not remember, but the only difference is that Incoterms address responsibility in STOs, right? So they say issuing plant planner is responsible for planning, while the receiving plant planner is responsible for planning in XWorks. So if this is an XWorks scenario, I would be the TS07 in the receiving plant, accessing my overview transportation requirements and searching for, in this time, I'm going to be searching for outbound deliveries instead of inbound deliveries. Okay, so we can perform a larger search here, whether it's by outbound or by original order or DTR or any other transaction. Okay, we can go to change query, remember this, and let's say we want to add, now we're adding the outbound 4151, and I know that I have some others. Actually, this is not even the outbound I'm looking for. It's 4212. Actually, let me start with 10 and we'll go to 11. Here, 2, 3, 4, 2, and 1, 2. Actually, let's do it like this because those are the three that I want to look for. I would click on apply and I get all my results here. Okay, quick refresher. We can set this up in a way that we can see, first thing, is packing done, right? That's what I need to know first. So we're looking for our packing status. Now I can search for it here too, but for some reason it doesn't find the packing status. I don't know why. Okay, you have to look for it here. So packing status, click, put it in, and then I'll look for in my filtering for the Incoterm, just basically because I want to understand that what I'm looking at, what Incoterm it is. I'm adding that here too. And I'm adding one more piece of information here, which should be the original order. Okay, I want to put that also at the top. Okay, I'm clicking OK. And here we go. So we have three things here. All right. We have the original order, which is actually the same one. So what this is telling me is that these three outbound documents come from a same order here, 127. So the same STO are all connected to one STO. And I did. Okay, for different reasons. I don't know. I clicked on a button here. I thought I muted myself, but I'm okay. So for some reason, we have several things. 3 outbounds to 1 STO. The packing status is completely processed for 2, but not for 1 in the middle here, okay, for this one ending in 11. So right away here, I can say, okay, what's going on? I have several DTRs, so I don't necessarily have to, let's say, plan these together, but I could, and I'm actually going to do this on purpose so that I can combine more than one freight unit at a time, because that's something I never shared with you guys, but it's very simple. We can make this screen a bit smaller here. We have our outbound delivery. We can probably move this over in planning, execution status over as well. And again, this is just really your basic setup, but I think it's very important for you guys to do this so that when you're looking at this as planners, everything is clear in one screen. Okay, so here we go. We could totally plan these together, okay, but we're going to do that. But of course, if we want to plan these together, what do we have to do first? First, ensure that this outbound 4211 is actually packed, which is not, okay, and then we can do it together. So this is done on purpose so you guys realize, okay, first thing, let's pack this quickly. All right, that's one of the first things you guys got to realize. We can't plan because this one is not packed. I could plan these two together, the 12 and the 10, but this one is not. Let's take a look at, even from this screen, the source and delivery address. Maybe they're going to the same place, right? So the location address here is Baghdad Green Zone. Okay, so they're all coming from the same source. They're all going to the same destination. All right, we can even see delivery date. From is the 20th December. Okay, and the all the other information that we need. The delivery date here is actually the same. The source location is the same. The destination location is the same. So it would be quite ridiculous not to plan these together, right? We wouldn't be optimizing transportation. And you see, all I'm doing now is what you should be doing as planners if you really want to make the best out of TM. You can always just select one line in plan and another line in plan, and then I edit my SOW manually, and that could be fine as well. But the problem with that is that you're never going to make TM a smarter system, and eventually you're never going to have TM generate the most accurate proposals and the most accurate SOWs, because eventually down the road we want to have an SOW with all our information so that we don't have to keep going back and editing every one of them. So if we did this, and now the best case scenario here for me would be take this PO, okay, this STO, sorry, so I would quickly, and this I'm going to do it quickly, go to ECC really quick, log in as a inbound coordinator, complete the packing for the outbound that is not there. So I'm going to say yes here, and then go back to TM, ensure that this has been packed, and then go through with the process. Okay, so ME23N, and I'm going to do this quickly. What I want to do now here is search for my 127, right? So it's 48127. I think it's probably over here, 127. So here it is. That's the correct one. Other document. I'm seeing my STO. You see the three of them, 3 items are all linked here, but below, when we have our purchase order history, we have one outbound for line 1, which is this one, another outbound for line 2, and another outbound for line 3. Okay, so which one was it that I have to plan for? I'm bringing back the screen here. I'm looking for the 11. Okay, that's the one that's not relevant. So packing hasn't been done for the 211. So I'm back here, go one up, double click. And now I should be in my outbound delivery for the 211, and that's the one I'm at. I'm going to click on edit. I'm going to click on pack. And here you go. It seems like everything's fine here. Okay. For some reason, maybe the packing has not been done correctly. So we have our data here that has been added. Okay. And we see that we can save. Let me see if I have a warning message. Okay. For some reason, that one's fine. Let me go back into it. And hopefully in the training environment, it's not the case that it's not going to reflect the one example that I have for you guys, which would be quite terrible here. So here we go. We have that one there. We have our loading weight, allowed volume. It's partially packed to quantity. So it seems like everything is fine. Now, let's see. I'm clicking on the handling unit. Weight volume. We have here information. That's fine. Maybe I can make a change here and see if I can. Handling unit was changed. See if now this time it works. I'm going to go back to my outbound. I'm going to check my TM status button. And now we shouldn't have an issue in terms of packing. And here it is. Okay. So very good. So it should be fine now. Hopefully TM reflects that as well. Okay. So basically when you're back into TM, your not relevant status for this outbound should change and say completely processed. For some reason, it's not changing it, okay? But in production, this is something that should definitely raise your eyebrows and say, okay, we need to take a look at this item here. For some reason, it's not refreshing. It's not saying completely processed, but it is, as I see in the outbound, it is done, okay? So this happens to you in production. This is something to raise concern for. Now,
maybe,
yeah.
Do you think if you log out and log in again, it'll work, or it should refresh automatically?
It should refresh. I'm going to do that too, but I was going to check first in the DTR for the requirement for 211. If you see at the bottom, the items, it does show packed, which to me, that's all I need to see that this has been done correctly here. So the handling unit shows that it's been packed for this item. So there I should have no issue. It's only in this screen that it's not displaying for some reason. Okay, I can log out from ECC. I can do that and maybe see if it's going to refresh the status. But I do see that it's, let me see here. This is for TM and the last one. Let me log out completely. Okay, list of inbounds. Getting out of here. I'm going to log off. Perfect. Okay, so now we're out completely. Let me see if I refresh. But it still doesn't make a change. Okay, but definitely this is a good example. If this happened to you guys in production, this would be something to take a look at. Why is it not showing packing status for this particular outbound delivery when if I actually access it here, the DTR shows me that it is. Okay, the packing is done. The information is there correctly for the material and for the handling unit. It's all displayed correctly here. Okay, so basically that works for me. I can plan because I see that it's already been packed. Remember the planning. Remember that you guys can simply select all the DTRs that you want to plan for and go to the cockpit directly, or you can basically go to the planning tab, click on Transportation Cockpit, and then perform the planning from here. Okay, so, and I think here's where it's going to become even more interesting because I'm already seeing something here strange. In the cockpit, we have our requirement document, but I think these are all different. Let me see, because I didn't even go to my planning profile. If you guys realized that the planning profile here was switched, it didn't show up. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to go to page layout and maybe select a different. Okay, we have our standard layout. Let me change to that one. Let me make this small again. Oh, sorry. And I see that we have 3 freight units. Which one should I be looking at here in the ERP logistics? Based on my outbounds, I should be looking at my freight unit. Let me see. According to my DTR, 764. Okay. So 764, 765, and 766 DTRs are the ones that are actually here in the cockpit. So everything's fine. Now, if you guys have realized something, you should already see something that should make you think what's going on, right? 646566 is the DTR. The freight units are also different, but look at the items here. Okay, we have the items. Some are packaged and some are not. You see? So there's two things. We have items that are packaged with the icon for the freight unit that we can probably plan for, but then others show here freight unit. So it's displayed differently. Maybe it's the packaging material that we selected in the ECC. Maybe it's some other glitch in the system, but for some reason, the one freight unit here doesn't show as either materials or packed. It shows completely different than it shows as a freight unit. Okay, and this is something worth investigating if you guys have an issue like this in production. The 3 of them should display as packed. I did realize that. Zina.
Brian, there was something in the ECC which was showing total allowed or something like that, and that was empty. Could that be the cause or something like that? There was one of the fields that was not filled in the packing.
One of the fields always stays empty, actually, and I think it's that one, the one that's total allowed. What is making me think a lot is here that the handling unit shows below the product, and usually the handling unit should be above the product in all cases. So it's kind of like it's not packed correctly, or something has been done strangely, because if you look at the other ones, if let's say I'm exiting here and I'm looking at this DTR 66, look at the item section. Yeah, right there, right? The item section, see, this is the way it should look like. Your handling unit should be driving your goods, your product. But for some reason, in the one that I was showing you, it's the other way around. And that's what I think there's where the mistake is made. So we would have to probably go back into ECC, maybe delete the packaging that we've done and repack again and see if we do it correctly. Maybe we've selected the wrong packaging material. That's also something, and that's why TM is not interpreting it correctly. Okay, all these are things that we should be checking before we move on to the planning. Now, I can go back and check that if it's okay with you guys, so maybe we can see if there's an issue. I just don't want to spend time with the packing and not show you guys the planning. But if it's worth it, I'll go through it.
Yeah, please do.
Yes, perfect. All right, so let's test these things. All right, let me go back, and we're going to go into ECC and look for that outbound, okay? Let's see. All right, so I'm just going to display the outbound that I have here, unless I think I can remember which one it was, right? It was the 18127. I think it was that one. Let's see. There you go, right? We have our 3. Okay, and let's see if we can figure out what's going on here. So first of all, we have 3 different outbounds. Let's take a look at the packaging for the 11, right? That's the one that was quite strange. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so we have our handling unit, we have our packaging materials. Let's see what packaging material this is. We see that the total quantity and partial is done correctly, so that doesn't seem to be the issue there either. Let's see what packaging material that is, and maybe if I selected the wrong one. If not, maybe we can just get rid of that and pack it again and see if the second time around. So we're selecting ZPAM packaging material from the material type, and we should only, okay, so who knows, maybe, see, this is one of those examples of selecting the wrong packaging material, but let's see, let's go with the, I believe we can search by the number here. So 19, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3, 2. and this should be the box SHP. So maybe it is the wrong packaging material that I selected for something like this. Let's see, what is it that I'm actually, it's a spare TPT Ford. So basically I can't really understand if this is big or small by looking at that description, but maybe
it's not very big. Those are spare parts. Those are okay. I mean,
okay, so tell me, if is it maybe the fact that I selected this packaging material? Should I change to something different? Maybe
we can try changing the packaging material and see if it works or not. Just give it a try.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Maybe because it's just a general. It's a generic box. It's not a detailed box with measurements or something.
Exactly. You realize that, right? So you see that this 132 is the actual one without any measure. So maybe if I switch to this one,
dimensions, yeah,
it should be fine now. Let's see. Okay, so it says the handling unit was changed. Let's see. And you were talking about this allowed weight. So basically, we don't really need to. Let's see. Let me populate it nonetheless. I see the loading weight is quite strange, but it could be. I mean, I don't know the weight here. I'm sure we should change the unit of measure to maybe grams if we can't do it by kilograms. But basically, the allowed volume here is fine. We don't have to add anything there. I'm not sure, Zina, was it the allowed load weight that was blank before?
Yes.
Or it wasn't the allowed volume. No, it was the allowed load weight. Okay, so let's see. If I click on enter, it's fine. I thought you were referencing this one, allowed volume. This one can stay blank, no problem.
No.
And let's click.
Weight. Yeah.
Okay, now it says it was saved again. Let's click and see. Let's go back to TM status. This one was showing packed, and it still shows packed. Let's move back to our TM here, and now let's see if things are changing here. Okay, well, not in the transportation cockpit, but let's see in the DTR. Okay, so we have it here. Okay, so every time I log out and in, I have to add this packing, it seems, this packing field. I think that once you guys do it in your own profiles, you won't have to. Again, remember that you can't filter, at least not in the training environment. And let's see if that changes. If it doesn't change this time, then maybe we can delete it and do it again. Let's see, packing status. Let's add it here. Okay. And see, it still continues to be not relevant for some reason. Okay, but everything is now correct. We've checked. We have, if I click on packing view, the
have you checked the dates? Have you checked the dates, Brian? Could it be the dates? Could it be a
dates, but let's see.
It says 17 and today is 18. You see the document date.
Where? But this is the creation date, right? The one that we should be looking at is here, no? The 20th of December.
Okay.
Is the one that the transportation is planned for. So that's fine. I created this document here, but it is strange that in every way it's showing me the, see, remember when I was clicking on packing view before? The package was the one that would unfold and fold the rest, and now it's the outbound delivery item that does it. It's like packaging is completely separate. I could try one more time and see if I can just delete the packing that I have and then pack it again. Maybe there's something wrong with this packing, if I can actually do that. Let's see. Do you really want to? Let's get rid of that. And let's do that again. Let's see. Okay, so let's do packaging materials, and we'll go by same thing. And this is the last chance I'll give this, but it's definitely something I'm taking note of, okay, for later on. Okay, let's make sure we're not selecting ones with the exclamations or any weird symbols, because those are the ones that are going to give us errors for sure. And now I'm going to select the bubble wrap just because I know that one works like 100% of the times. And it should be here. I know it may not make...
There's a spare. There's below the boxes. Sorry. There's below the boxes there for the spare parts. There's a packaging for spare parts. Go down, down, down.
Further down? We're talking about these three?
Yeah. Properly.
Okay,
probably
so this would be the generic version, correct? So maybe I can stick to this one, 7.7.
Yeah, well.
Let's see. Okay, so we have that. That's generating a handling unit. And now see how it's not maintained because it doesn't show any weight, volume, or anything like that. Let's click on the handling unit. Let's click on the volume, and you see nothing is maintained. It's all blank. Let's see. This may work this time around. I'm not sure of the, honestly, the maybe 6 kilos. I'm really just whatever. We'll just put any digits here. We just want to make sure this works. And that TM, maybe tare volume, a little less than that. The allowed volume is not necessary. I'm just putting digits from prior transactions that we have here. And I'm just going to, I think for some reason this time, maybe it has to do with the master data of the packaging item that we selected, or maybe the packaging item selected with the material. It could be anything. It's definitely a case worth checking and seeing why it's acting or reacting like that. Let me click on save. And let's see. Let's do this again. We go to the outbound. TM, document flow, and now packing is still there. And see, it still does it like this, which I don't understand why. And then here in TM, it's still showing me not relevant. And if I access the item, it's going to show the product. See, the handling unit is still below, but it still shows 3.2. Okay, that's probably, okay. That's worth taking another look. It still shows 3.2, and we just changed that.
When you deleted it, it didn't delete from all the views or all the, yeah. It deleted from an area. It didn't delete from the other areas, probably. So it's linked to a wrong document. And maybe the case is that whatever you're editing or correcting on that document is not being linked to the other documents that are similar to it in the other views. Do you get my point?
Yes, it could be. Yeah, it could very possibly be. Now, I'm just wondering, why would it not be linked?
Yeah, because I mean,
If
whatever
the numbers,
whatever you updated was not reflected on the other view for the same document. So like you changed the packing, it didn't reflect it, kept 32. Even when we changed, not from the 32, we had the 33 before we had the other number, which was the 77. So we changed a couple of times. That 32 is still there. While the first time we checked, you remember with the box with the more detailed, it had a 33 number. And then when we did the other spare was 77 and it didn't take that. So it's probably, there's a problem with the document. It's not synchronizing on the other views, or there's a link cut somewhere.
Absolutely, because it is working fine. We get to the 7.7, we have all the loading weight, everything seems to be fine, but there's a glitch somewhere there between TM and ECC that is not reflecting correctly. Yeah, that without a doubt. But I do see it even in ECC. If we take a look at the other outbounds, if I go to the 10 here instead of the 11, and I go to the TM status tab, if I check the document flow and I click on packing, see, the packaging can be folded and unfolded, and it kind of leads the rest of the document. When we do that for the 211, it's not like that. No matter how many packaging items we add there, if we click on 211, the TM status tab with the document flow, again, same thing, packing view, we don't have that option. So that's already for me a bit strange. Why doesn't it do that just like it does for the other ones? So anyway, there might be a glitch somewhere with this particular material, packaging material. I'm not sure, but for some reason it's not working when I make the changes. Okay, if this is definitely one of those cases where if you can't figure it out in production, this is a worthy of a ticket raising. How TM is not reflecting that, how TM is also showing this upside down. There must be a reason for this. It's not updating the changes in the packaging material. It's not updating the changes in actual packaging. If we added the column there for the packaging details, which it should. No, packing status. So we're going to move on if it's okay with you guys. I'm definitely taking note of a glitch like this one. And what we can do is basically just plan the two that are completed. That's it. Okay. So we could go for both and always leave this one hanging, because basically it's a different outbound. It's going to have a different freight unit, a different DTR, same PO, but it doesn't necessarily have to be in the same transportation. And who knows, maybe this could be a real case scenario where you're only transporting together 2 of the goods from an STO instead of the 3. Okay, so to do that, since we can do it from here, simply selecting the 2 lines and go to the cockpit, or we can go to planning and do the cockpit transportation option here. And another interesting thing too is that icon that we see, right? This one here. We should see a different one, either the package or the material one. But no, we see the freight unit one. And that's something that's interesting me too. Why do I see this one specifically? Nonetheless, let's start planning. It skipped my planning profile. Remember this? Because this is an STO scenario. I only have one planning profile. Again, it's always going back to my UN map layout for some reason. Okay, I can always change that and change the page layout to standard. Remember, you guys can go to your planning settings. Remember the profile, right? I'm just going to go over this quickly. We don't need the settings here. So we change profile selection, UNOESTO, or simply go to your planning profile. And remember this, right? If you want, I can show you one more time how to create your planning profile. But remember, you have 3 different planning profiles for a UNOE. I think Nicole has shared with everyone the latest planning profile setup, how to do it properly for every case scenario. If you guys don't have it, Zena and team over there, I can send you that information after this session. And that shows you every single, every option of the planning profile. Remember that we're doing this so that we can see the freight units that we want to plan for. Now, this column over here is.
Yep. I copied you on that. We have a group email now, so not to bother to send by name each one. So just send to that group, the Minorso TM working group. So everybody is there, so everybody will be, instead of having to type all the names every time when you send an email out with a link or something. We created a TM working group, so you can just send to that one. I copied you on the email when I sent out the info.
Very good. Okay, so I'll take a look at that, and like that, I don't miss anyone when I start sending emails there. So good job. You guys are highly motivated for TM, and I like that. Okay, so basically the planning profile here, I'm clicking on the matchbox. Remember that you're setting up your profile. You only have 1 for STOs. For UNOE, you also have 1, but it's a different one from your STO planning profile. Okay, remember this one says STO. We add 1 for the freight unit. Now, this one is very easy because you basically just have 1. TM planners for STO scenarios can plan all Incoterms, FCA, XWorks, and DAP. It doesn't make a difference. So if you select the one that says STO and not the one that is forward or delivered, just STO here. The same thing for the freight order. Select the one that is STO. So all you're selecting is STO, UNOE STO, UNOE STO, UNOE STO. You're basically setting up your description here. Okay, so we can add one here, and you click on save. The thing is, since I believe I only had 1 planning profile set up and I set it up once already, I don't really need to go back to my planning profile again. You can always click on the default set and say, I want this one to be my default set, which is the one I know it works, either forward or delivered, or this one, which is training. Click on save and go to continue. And basically you're going to go into your transportation cockpit that is going to show you the freight units to plan and no freight orders here because there's nothing there. Okay, so we're only going to select the ones that are packed. So we're going to go with this freight unit, 7.6 and 7.8. Same loading, same destination. The dates are the same too, 1912 for earliest, and let's see what that means or stands for, earliest requested date and latest. It's always going to be 7 days apart. Remember in the outbound delivery document, it showed the 20th of December as your goods issuing date. So earliest would be 19th according to the system, but again, latest would be 27th. Now, when we go into the proposals, and that's going to be important, when we select these two freight units and go into transportation proposals, I want to make sure what dates are available in my loading and unloading. Okay, dates. Remember that you can also use the personalization icon to display columns that are not there. Okay, so if you want to search by delivery, which is the outbound delivery, you can do that too. Original delivery, we can put it here at the beginning. We honestly don't need our means of transport, so I can get that one out of the way. I can get the requirement document out of the way. I don't need that. Planning status, fine. I can save. And now I can see my outbound, my packaging info, freight unit, and so on. So here I can say, you know what? I want to search for one specific outbound, 4212, and that will just show me one highlighted. Or remember, you can do it through here, and you can sort by saying all I want to see on screen, and you have here one. You can add a second one and say original delivery, sending. And did I say sort instead of filter? Let me see. Custom filter. Here we go. So we're going to do two of them. We're going to put contains and contains. And I just want to display the ones that I know I want to plan for, the ones that I know are there. Imagine we had 200 outbound delivery documents, and we only want to see the ones that we are planning. If we do it through here, and we set the filter and we click on OK, everything else disappears from your screen, and all you have is this. If all you want to do is highlight it in yellow, you would put it here. But that would highlight in yellow amongst all the other freight units or outbounds that are there. If you're looking for a delivery, an outbound delivery or a PO, but you don't have your PO or outbound delivery column displayed, the system is going to keep telling you it doesn't exist, even though it's linked to this freight unit 7.8. If I get rid of this one here, I don't know if I can get it out of here. But if I went back and said, you know what, get rid of my column of original delivery. If I took this one out and I performed the exact same search of 212, it would tell me 0 matches, even though 212 I know is linked to one of these. But since the column is not there, your matches are still 0. So always remember to add the column of that you're looking for. So if you're looking for the original delivery, okay, maybe I can filter here. Then always add it at the beginning or anywhere you want. And now when you search by it, it'll tell you there's one match, okay? And it's linked to this guy. All right, so let's select both the freight units because I want to plan transportation for both of these. I select them together. I click on transportation proposals, and let's see what the system shows me. Okay, I think it's freezing now. And yeah, all right, so I'll do it quicker this time around. So I'm going to repeat the process. If you guys have any questions while I do this again. Okay, everything is specified, 210, 212. Okay, so I'm back in the same screen. This may crash again. Sometimes it does it 2-3 times in a row. Depending on the time of the day. This is the time of the day where the environment works worse because New York is making changes to it and is using it too. See, I can't even close the warning box here, and here we go. Okay, now I can get rid of it. Fine. Remember, this transportation proposal estimation. You see how now it's combining both the freight units, 7, 6, 7, 8. It's telling you there's 3 stages for each. If you look at the stages, you see Spira, Brindisi, Mersin, Spica here. So same thing here, Spica, Brindisi Port, Brindisi Mersin, Spica. So basically, it's the same exact route for both the freight units. So you know that when you select it, you're basically going to get only 3 freight orders that are going to combine these 2 goods that are going to be transported together. So that's how you would do it if you want to combine more than one freight unit. And this is how it would look in the system. You'd have all your freight units combined in one proposal. The stages would also show for each freight unit, but basically what it's telling you is that they're all following the same route. Now, why does it show you different stages if they're exactly the same? If you basically said, okay, I want to select this, and you accepted route instead of planning, the route is going to display each and every one of these stages separately. Okay, meaning that if you just want to go through Spida, but then you wanted to combine one route from this stage with another route from another freight unit because you know that something else is coming from some other place that eventually will meet in Brindisi port. So if you accept the routes, what you're doing is you're telling the system that you want to keep a stage, a specific stage, because eventually you want to merge it with another stage that doesn't necessarily have to be part of your initial plan. Okay, you want to combine this Brindisi port, Spida Brindisi or Brindisi Mersin with 6 other stages from other plannings that you have already done prior. Okay, but that's very advanced planning. And that you'll know as you practice more and more. So if I accept route, I accept all 6 of these. Yeah,
sorry, Brian.
Gina.
When you want to do that, what you were saying, to select a stage from one freight order and then other stages from other places, that's where you say accept planning or accept route?
Route.
Route, okay.
Okay, planning is when you want to accept what's on screen. When you're happy with what you see here, I like the proposal, I accept the plan. When you're happy with what you see, but you don't want this exact plan, you click on route because what you like is the stage. You like that the fact that there's a stage from Brindisi to Mersin, and you know that you have 6 other shipments that are going to follow the same route, Brindisi Mersin, and you want to combine them. So you accept the stage, and then you accept the stage, which is really accepting the route. And then in the cockpit, you combine them together. So if you want to take a look at what that looks like, right? Let's select this one and click on route instead of plan, right? And I say route in this case. See, I'm going to maximize this so it looks better. You see now you have the 7-6 freight unit is split 3 times and the 7-8 is split 3 times. Each one of these is equivalent to a stage, a particular stage. Now, if I had another 3, 6, 7, 12 freight units here, and one of them was meeting in Brindisi port to go to Mersin, I could select that one and then go to the next one and go, I like these 2 because they meet somewhere in between. And then you would go back to your transportation proposals and plan transportation for those 2, but eventually you're going to have to plan transportation with those 2 and maybe the other 2 that go to a final destination. For example, like this one, these 3. Okay, so you can't just basically select one stage and plan it. You'd have to select all the stages you want to combine together and then plan them so that the system can return to you a full plan from A to Z. If all I do is select Brindisi port and, for example, here, and let's do that. I'm going to click on, click on this guy, and I'm going to go with proposals. Let's see what the system does. Because I'm only selecting these 2 stages, nothing else. So I'm basically telling the system that these are the stages that I'm interested in. The problem is you have to replan, okay? You select the stage again and of course. Okay, so let me just go back to this quickly. Sorry, guys. That's something I can't avoid. Okay, so here we go. I think we should still have our 6. Very good. There you go. So that's what happens when you select the route. It crashes, okay, basically. Let's expand this. And let's do this again, okay, just to see what happens. I'm only selecting these 2 routes. I'm going to click on proposals, and I'm not getting an error message per se saying you can't do this. It's just that the system is crashing, okay? Hopefully
But
now it doesn't.
Brian, you can always go back to the other stage if you want to select the planning. Can you do that? Or once you select the route, you can't go back to plan?
You can, actually. If you wanted to, you can simply go right back to the plan and say, okay,
Yeah,
so I accepted the...
You didn't like that route of the stages, and you would prefer to go back to the plan. So you can go back to the plan if you didn't like the route that they, I mean, the two stages you selected, and you didn't like it, and you would prefer to go back to the planning. So you can go back a step and then select what they proposed for you and select the planning. Is that okay? You can do that, right?
Exactly. Right now, the only thing is now I have all these duplications. So you just have to make sure that you select them all again and then go to transportation proposal, so that you're telling the system what you want to do is get a proposal for all of this, okay? For all this transportation, these 2 freight units and everything. If you just went and said, you know what, click on one line and go, what you're doing is you're telling the system you only want to plan this. That's why I wanted to see what happens when I click on bring DC and bring DC, but it's already crashed twice. And I want to see
what
if
happens
third time's... I want to see if third time's the charm here, or where it's going to crash again. And I would love to see what happens in production. So I would basically say it's just crashing in a sense. I think it's because the system is trying to give us a proposal when it doesn't have the full idea, of the source location. It's just basically trying to combine all possible origin locations and all possible destination locations with that one Brindisi port to Mersin port. That's why it's having trouble returning the proposals. Because if I did this, if I selected all of them and I clicked on proposals, that should work. And now the system is probably going to make me look bad now by crashing again, but this should work this time around. Because now I'm not telling the system to perform such a massive search, right?
Okay, but how do you go back?
Give me a break. The system needs to give me a break today.
Give me a break,
Yeah.
exactly. But how you can show us? Okay, if it crashes, then can you go back to the one showing the proposals? Oh no, it didn't.
See?
Okay, good luck.
So now you'll never know if what I just said is true or I just made that all up, okay? Because it worked, okay? So basically, this is what we're getting now. You see now the difference is we're getting 4 stages, I believe, instead of 3 stages, because the new transportation proposals that it's giving me are different from the ones before. You can always do something that is very, very useful. And I think, Zina, what you were about to ask is related to this. So let's say I'm thinking, okay, wait a second, why am I getting all these stages if initially I only had 3? So cancel this.
Yeah. To go back.
Exactly, right?
Then you say, okay, the initial one they gave me was a lot better than what I'm trying to make up or whatever.
Exactly, right? But now every time I come back here, I have all these stages that are all split, right? And I'm like, why? I don't want this anymore, right? I want to get rid of this. So if we can do this, we can definitely just close the cockpit. Let's go back to the DTR section. And if we only select, let's say 10 and 11 here, we're not going to select of course, it's a shame that the 11 one doesn't work here.
10 and 12.
What you would do, 10 and 12. What you would do is you go to your DTR, look for your freight unit, okay? Select it, the 778, right? And what you do so that you avoid having all those stages, those excess stages in the cockpit, is you basically click on edit under the freight unit and you can cancel your document. If you cancel this document, what it does is it resets, it generates a new one as if you have never planned it before, okay? I think it already did. I'm going to do this for this one too, for the 210. And what that does is the system resets, sends you a new freight. Let's see, this one is 776. I'm paying attention to the number now. And I'm going to cancel this one as well. And now 776, Wait, okay, clicking on cancel document. Okay, it's gone, and now it should be gone if I click on refresh. 87. See, it already changed and it gave me a new one. So what that's doing is it's refreshing the freight unit. So if I go back to my planning and I go back to my cockpit and the planning profile is fine and I go into my transportation cockpit again, I should have, see, now only the 2 stages. And now when I select the transportation proposals for the 12 and the 10, which are still here, again, here I should still get my original transportation proposal of only 3 stages instead of the 4, the 5, the 6. That's the biggest problem with planning and then regretting your planning going back, that the freight units are always going to appear 3 times, 4 times, 5 times every time you do it. And it may alter your proposals too. I would like to see the... Okay.
I'd like to see the system not crashing.
Yeah, that I would love to see that too. I'm telling you, it's the time of the day. Usually after 2 o'clock, New York is up. They start using the system.
Sorry,
and
Brian. It will always give you another freight unit number. It will not go back to the same freight unit number, right?
It won't. No, that old freight unit will disappear.
Okay. Once you did the route, not the planning. You did the accept route instead of accept planning. So
yes,
if I want to cancel it, the moment I cancel it, it'll generate a new number. So the freight unit has a new number now, and you will never get back to the old number. Okay.
Exactly. No, the old number will just disappear. They'll give you a brand new freight unit. Since we didn't accept the route.
It's identical to the other one, but with a different number. It's identical to the first one at the beginning, right?
Exactly. It's the same thing. It's a freight unit that is linked to your outbound and everything is the same, but it's a different number now.
Okay.
And in ECC, if we went there, we would see the new number. Okay, and that's, I think we have our ECC document here, right? So if we do look at the one that is the 12, right? Let's say, because I also made changes to 12. If we went to the TM status tab and we see our freight unit, it's 1786, and that should be 1786 for the other ones as well, right? I haven't checked this, but it should be. So if I'm looking at 12 and this is the DTR, so my freight unit should be 1786. See? So ECC and TM automatically switch the number. Okay, they talk to each other and switch the number too. So the other one is gone. The other freight unit number is completely gone from the plan. Okay, let me just get rid of these screens, and we're back to our 3 stages. If you see here, so we're back to our original 3 stages, which is what we like. So remember, to get this, what you do is you get rid of your freight units. The freight units are generated one more time. You have less stages, or you go back to your original. You accept the planning this time. And remember, even before, when we accepted route, all we did was accept route. You see now that there's also all these stages, but you only have 3 freight orders. When we accepted the route, you didn't have any freight orders. You only had stages. Because until you select the stages you want to plan transportation for and generate them again, you're not getting freight orders. You're only getting stages that are to be planned still. So basically we have our 3 stages per each, but eventually it's only 3 in total. They're combining the 2 because we accepted planning. Remember that until we click on save, we haven't done anything yet. We don't have any freight order documents. Okay, so once we click on save, we get our 3 freight orders, and now we have eventually created our freight orders. Now, these can be deleted too. You can go to each freight order individually, and you can delete all the documents, then cancel your freight unit and plan all over again. Okay, and that's basically what I'm going to do now. If by any chance you're not happy with your planning, you say, oh, wow, I already planned, and now what do I do? Because I already clicked on save. No problem. You can do it in 2 ways. You can access each one of these freight orders individually from here. Now, again, you have to do it in sequence, okay? So let's close this window. Let me see.
Sorry, Brian. Hello?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It's not in the same sequence. It's Spira, Brindisi, Port, and Marsin. And then there you have the Marsin, Brindisi, and then Spira. Does that...
No, exactly.
Does that...
The freight order
Does that
section
connect-
never displays them in sequence.
Oh, okay, okay.
For some reason. Yeah. You can do it yourself if you wanted to. For example, see,
I mean,
what it does
doesn't
display
matter.
in sequence
Does it
is the
matter?
numbering. Yeah.
Okay, so does
But
it
not the
matter or it doesn't
locations.
matter?
It doesn't matter here. What it matters is when you delete it. That's what's important. Okay, so if I want to delete it in sequence, what I would have to do is make sure that I'm looking at first my last one, right? Which would be this one. My last final destination is the one with Spica 3. So if I go back, this is the first freight order I should delete. Then I should go to the 904, and then I should go to 905. So it's completely out of whack, right? If I want to delete it in sequence. Another way of understanding the correct sequence is to go to the freight units. If you go to the freight units, in this case, they're planned together, and you go to the stages tab. If we went to our stages tab under the freight unit, what you would see is the actual and correct stage. See, 1, 2, and 3. And this is actually correct. So here, if you scroll to the right, at the end, you know that this is your last stage, this is your main carriage, and this is your pre-carriage. So you can always know what is first, last, and second from here. Or if you simply just take a look at your source location destination, you can see which one it is. And then here you can access your 906 and say, you know what, let me delete my planned freight order. So it's the same thing. You click on edit, you click on the double arrows to see cancel document. It'll tell you, are you sure? You say yes, and now the document is gone. Okay, if we refreshed any of these pages, we should only see 2 now. Well, I think that, okay, now we only have 2. Another way of doing this is, for example, if I go back to my outbound delivery document, we have the 12 and the 10, okay? So, or maybe I can just copy the freight unit here, which is 1786, 1787, okay? We can get rid of this. We can go back to our display DTR. And here, what we can say is, okay, so I want to, I can't cancel my DTR documents, but maybe I can get rid of my freight orders from here, freight order management, freight orders. We'll look for my DTR in this case. Let me get out of here. So let's see. I'm going to look for change query. Remember that you always have to get rid of all the data here. Go down to your ECC outbound or STO. Actually, if you have in the STO, we have it, which was 481234127, I believe, is the one. Okay, we have our freight orders, which are only 2, the ones that we planned, 4 and 5, okay, because we deleted the third one. And now we're selecting all, and we're canceling the document for both at the same time. Okay, so we can do it like this as well. It's much faster. And that will erase both my documents once I click on refresh. Okay, and they're gone. So now my freight orders are gone. The planning has been canceled, but remember, like we saw before, if I go to my transportation cockpit, see, we're back here. We see that nothing has been planned, and the status should have changed to in planning. And here they go, in planning. So we're back to in planning instead of in process. If we go back to our cockpit, as we just did before, now we should see a bunch of freight units all spread out in my freight unit section. That's because we have to cancel our freight units. See, we'll have this mess out here. So if I select them all and I plan again, I'm going to get a bunch of more stages and more stages all the time. So to avoid this, what I would have to do again is cancel these freight units. Okay, the 1786 and the 1787 would have to be canceled. And there you go. And then we would just do it again. So basically, you cancel your FOs and you cancel a fuse, and you plan again. That's as simple as it is. And you see there's really no more complication to that. And once you've canceled all these ducts, you get a brand new freight unit. I can go to my 8787, do the same thing. I'll refresh my cockpit later on and see. Let's go with the double arrow, cancel. And now if I refresh, it should have brand new freight units. There you go. See, 1788, 1789. So that's the way to do it, okay? If you've already planned and you regret it, you delete and start over. If you haven't clicked on save here in the cockpit, that means you haven't planned. So you could always select and plan again. You can delete the freight units to go back to your original transportation proposals. There's a bunch of ways around it, okay? But it's very, very interesting that you know all these ways, and I'm glad that we're having this conversation so that we know what we can do and what can actually happen. Now, so far, we have done the planning several times. We've checked on the packing. We've made sure that the packing was done properly. For some reason, we had one outbound that wasn't really reflecting the actual there. For some reason, it's reflecting a different option. Remember the icon here that I'm going to look into and see why that's the case here. Now what we would have to do, and again, our 2 hours are already up, but now what we would have to do is assign carrier freight PO and then submit the events. So we could go through that. If you guys are still up for it, maybe we can go through the rest.
Yes, we are. Yes, please.
Okay, very good. So let's do that, right? Let's assign carriers. Well, let's first plan these two again, because I deleted it so many times that eventually I've done nothing so far in TM. So we're going to plan and we're going to assign carriers. This is an STO. So you know what? Instead of assigning a freight forwarder vendor, what I'm going to do is assign a UN vehicle. Okay, so it makes a little more sense because this, let's say, could be a possibility. And we haven't shown you that yet. So again, I'm selecting my 3 stages. I'm going with accept planning. And this time I'm going to go with OK. We still have our 11 here, but no problem. I'm just going to click on save. And we have our freight orders. Perfect. Okay, so we're done. In that case, we have already planned. And now what we want to do is assign carrier and freight PO. So remember to do that. Now this is a different role. It's the TS08 if this was the STO scenario, TS02 if it's a UNOE. We click on overview freight orders. We would switch by outbound for all our freight orders. So let's go and see our delivery here. Or we can simply add our STO, which is this one. It's actually that one. We can click on apply. Now remember that you have 3, okay? So you have to make sure that you are adding it to the correct one, which is, okay, right here we have the 12, 10, 10. Okay, so we know that it's only for the outbounds that are the ones that we've planned, right? 210, 412, so they're all linked together. DTRs, forwarding orders, it's combining all of them together. Okay, so no problem. I can definitely assign the same carrier to each one of these legs. Now, this is an X-Works scenario, right? Remember, you can always find out what it is by clicking on the personalization icon and adding the columns. It's an X-Works scenario, which means the receiving mission is responsible for transportation. Now, I don't know how many cases in the mission they may have that the UN vehicle is the one responsible for bringing the goods for the entire trajectory. It could be the case, right? So in this case, we wouldn't really need to solicitate freight because we have a UN vehicle.
Brian, can you hear us?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, Zina.
Sorry, Brian, we lost the voice. Can you just repeat what you said? I'm sorry. Just lost your voice.
From the beginning, from 2 o'clock?
No,
or...
no. No, just a second. Just that second.
All right.
We'd love you to hear your voice for another 2 hours. We don't mind.
I'm sure you're tortured already. Yeah, so basically what I was showing you here is that you have to make sure, right, cross-reference that the outbound delivery documents that you're looking at are the ones you planned for. You see they're all combined because we combined the freight units. And then the other thing I was saying was that we can assign the carrier. We're going to assign the UN vehicle. I don't know how many situations in the mission in an X-Work scenario you'll have a UN vehicle doing the entire transportation, but it may be common, right, that the UN vehicle does the entire transportation of goods. So it's interesting for you guys to see how that's done. The only thing we won't do is raise a shopping cart for freight because basically we're using our vehicles. So in this case, what we would do is assign remember, if we go up here, if we went to subcontracting, in a sense, all we need to assign is carrier selection. We don't need to assign carrier, NSR, and freight PO. All we need to assign is a carrier. But in this case, the carrier is a UN carrier. So selection profile. Okay, I don't see why this one went here. It may not be set up properly. So I'm just going to go with our old school assign carrier and assign freight, and I'll just skip the freight line and just assign the carrier. Now, I don't know if you've received this email either, but I'm going to share it with you. It's the one that displays all the UN carriers based on mission.
The master catalog that was sent?
I believe so, right? It's an Excel with just one tab.
I think so.
Here, I'm going to share it on screen now.
Again.
There you go. I'm just opening it up and I'm going to share it on screen. And this is the hub entities. Okay, hold on. Move back. Okay, UN vehicle BPs, right? So entities as carriers. Sorry, I just have to go through a bunch of folders to find it, but here you go. And this is what the Excel looks like. I don't know if any one of you has seen this. It's quite basic. Honestly, it's just the carrier number, country, entity, and description. So basically, if you're looking for Minurso, your carrier number would be the following, right? And you have the ones for every other entity there. If you don't have this one, I'll send it to you as well.
Yeah, okay, just send it to me, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
I'll send it to the link I told you about. Yeah, to the group, sorry.
Minurso TM working group, right? Okay, so here we go. We have this one. So in this specific case, if where we're going is, let me see where we're going. I can't remember exactly where this is going. So we have our final destination here, which is the Baghdad green zone. So it should be UNAMI. And let's say UNAMI is responsible for the transportation of these goods. All we would have to do is basically search for UNAMI's carrier number, copy it, and let's assign it here. Okay, so we have, again, our 3 freight orders selected. Scroll up. Subcontracting, assign carrier and SOM freight PO, and here our carrier should be CIQ20, and if the system is fine, it should find it, right? It should link the carrier with this one. Now let me get it out of here and go to the matchbox to see if maybe I can add it here and we have a search result. And it doesn't seem like we do for UNAMI, which is strange. Yesterday I was testing it for UNAMA. I'm going to add UNAMA's here and see. And UNAMA is there. See, carrier UNAMA. So UNAMA seems to be fine. I'm going to put Minurso just for the heck of it to see if you guys are there. Okay. Okay, and let's see, search, and you guys are not there. Okay, so this is just another one of these that we may, or maybe I'm copying it.
Not there.
Typical, you're
typical.
not there.
They're not there.
And maybe if I switch here, instead I'm going to go with last name and say contains Minurso, if by any chance it's a different one. So we have Minurso. somehow here, but a bunch of different BPs. So I wouldn't know really which one to select, honestly. The liaison office, HQ, airport, Union, Western Sahara. So I guess basically whichever one we're responsible for.
EHA4.
A4?
Yeah.
Okay, so see in the carriers, BPs, if you guys look at this, I'm going to zoom in a bit. Minurso shows here as EH10. I didn't even see that option in the TM here. But anyway, let's go with this one and see if that works. See,
try
not a valid.
EH10. Yeah, try EH10. See if it works.
Okay.
Sorry,
Was it
type it in. Type it in.
Okay, let's see. So EH10. No. Not like that. I don't know if it has a C at the beginning like the others do, maybe. No, it doesn't. So basically, I don't think yours is set up yet, but it's a good thing I'm testing it with you because I was going to show this. Exactly. At least not in the training environment, you don't. So what does exist is this here, a bunch of different business partners, but even if I select them, they don't work well. So I'm going to say the 4 should be fine, or MA4, I don't know, any of these should work, but it's telling me not valid. So if it's not valid, why do you give me the option to select it? Okay, so.
Sorry, can you try the one with MLB? Sorry, last trial. Just try the one with the MLB. The logistics space. The one with the name logistics space. Oh my God.
Okay, let's see.
Oh my God, it's hurting.
Again, remember, this is not production, okay? So because you're not, it doesn't, no one's thinking about you.
Okay? A2. Nobody thinks about us. I know. We're forgotten. We're the forgotten ones.
Let's try this guy. Same thing. So at least, I don't know why it gives me the option to do it when it's not valid. If I select the one for UNAMA, which my first test today was, of course, select the first.
We could be UNAMA. We could be UNAMA, no problem.
Could be, right? Who knows? Yeah. So I'm just going to select UNAMA right now because I know that's the one that worked this morning. And if I select it and add it here, automatically it shows me, see, carrier UNAMA. And if I select it and go OK, that one works. So when, of course, I selected my first one in the Excel and I thought, okay, I'm ready for my webcast with Minurso. So of course, I selected another one and that one didn't work. Okay, so anyway, now the dummy carrier here, if we refresh, should show UNAMA as the carrier. See? And this should be good for every other entity as carrier. So any BP that I add should show this. And this will automatically tell the planner that we're using a UN vehicle. And also depending on which BP we're using, which I think we only have one assigned per mission, and they should all be working in production. We already know that we don't need a freight PO for this case. So we wouldn't need to go back to the actuals and update the actual charges. Maybe we don't even need to go back and update the routes. But if we want to stay true to the transportation route that we're following, we should at least have the same exact transportation route that we planned for, or we should edit the freight orders to represent that. Okay, so that should still be done. Maybe not the charges, because eventually we're the charges that we were estimating, if we know the actuals, maybe yes, we can add them too. But we should definitely update the locations and dates so that when we submit events, we have the actual locations too. Okay, so that works for this case. If we wanted to add the freight PO, remember, we just add it into subcontracting in the field all the way at the bottom for freight purchase order. You add that there, click on OK, and now all the freight orders have that information too. Okay, so that was some good testing. Definitely Minurso's not there. Now we know for sure. We can see our DTR document, and in the document flow, all linked freight orders. So remember this. Now, what we're supposed to do now is TS08. After we assign the carrier, what we would do is update the charges, update the locations, and update the dates, right? So that they reflect accurately. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Basically, remember that you can also update the main carriage in the freight order. So we would have to look for the freight order that is the main carriage, which means the one that's going from an airport to an airport or a port to a port. So if we're back on our screen for overview, the one that we would be updating basically is the one that says source Brindisi port, destination Mersin port, right? It's the one that's going from port to port is the one that we should be updating, which is our 907. So based on that, I should only, let me start closing windows because I think I have too many open. I should only select the 907. See, it's not in sequence either here. It seems like this is the first one, but it's the one in the middle. And this is the one I would perform the changes to. Remember that if you want to see the full stages, you go to your freight unit, you click on that, and you see your main stages here. Remember, stages, you have 1, 2, and 3, and these are actually in order, in sequence. Okay, you have your C, you have your freight orders at the end that you can click on and change. Remember, I also taught you guys, especially for FCA scenarios, you can click on edit and change the Incoterm location. Okay, you can do it in the freight unit, but that's only for specific scenarios where the Incoterm location has been different to the one that was originally selected, and it's only for FCA scenarios. If we're looking at any other type of scenario, always go to your freight order, the one in the main carriage, click on edit, and you edit your, before we go to the charges, you can edit your stages tab and make the changes to the source location, destination location. Now here, remember, two things can happen. The system says, all right, perfect, we're changing ports and now it's an airport and everything connects and the system returns an okay message and you're good to go. Or it screws up all your planning and now you have a bunch of conflicts between your initial stage and your last stage. Usually the conflict occurs in FCA scenarios when you have a leg that is planned by the vendor and legs that are planned by the planner. That's when you're going to have a conflict because the one from the vendor doesn't automatically update with your freight forwarder stage. So you're changing the freight forwarder stage here, and then the vendor FO sends a message saying, hold on, there's a conflict now. You have one leg that is not connecting with any of your legs. Okay, if that happens, again, all you have to do is what we did at the beginning, well, somewhere in the middle of our session, which is delete all your freight orders, delete your freight unit, plan again. That would be the best system. If by any chance you want to go the long route, you would change this anyway. You would go to the freight order for the vendor leg. You would delete only that freight order. That freight order would regenerate and hopefully it plans it. But the best thing with FCA scenarios, usually the vendor leg does not automatically update. So one of the best things is to replan again in FCA scenarios. That's why we recommend also that if it's a freight unit edition, if you're going to your freight unit and you're editing the handover location from your freight unit, that's done in FCA scenarios for that particular reason. Because like that, you can manage all your legs at once. And if you make a change here to the Brindisi port location, you change the Incoterm, it automatically links the automatically planned stage. Since we're looking at an STO, FCAs don't have vendor delivered, DAPs don't have vendor delivered, XWorks don't have vendor delivered, and STOs, vendor delivered stages don't exist. They only exist in UNOE for FCA, DAT, and FOB, as well as DAP scenarios, of course. But the only ones that you could have a screwed up planning are the ones that have both combined, freight forwarder delivered stages and vendor delivered stages, because the system is not matching them together. Okay, so basically that's a reminder of how we would edit our locations in our freight orders. Okay, edit, make sure you change the main location, make sure you also change the date, planned departure, planned arrival. Okay, that's where you change the dates and the location. Charges in the charges tab, quite simple. And we see here that we have under the package, we have two different packages. We have one for one freight unit and one for the other, because remember we have two freight units being transported. So we have to update for two packages. The one that is 861, which is the handling unit 861. We see the carrier is UNAMA. So you update the information here. You add the actual charges based on gross volume. Okay, remember that. And basically you click on save and you would have your additions to your freight orders. Okay, that is a simpler process to add the actual charges. The most difficult one would be to make the changes in locations, and cross your fingers that it doesn't disrupt your planning. Okay, we can cancel that. And the only thing we'd be missing is the event management. Okay, we can take a look at the TM event management right now. So basically we see our freight order. If you guys remember, where we have to go is to the execution tab, and we have all our events here. Okay, so remember, execution tab in each of the freight orders. Now what we're doing is submitting events, and now we're not the TS08 anymore, now we're TS07. If this were a UNOE scenario, we wouldn't be TS02 anymore, we would be TS01 again, okay, because those are the ones who submit events. Remember, same thing, you click on edit, you simply select an event and click on report if you want to report it as is, okay, based on today's date and time, or you can manually add your actual event date, actual event time, but you always at the end have to click on report to ensure the actual event is submitted. All the events you see here are always going to be expected events. Okay, all these are expected, and that's why they're there. If you want to insert an unexpected, you click on insert event and you select from the drop-down the type of unexpected event that you're going to add. Okay, then once you have added it with your date, time, location, because remember this requires a location, and look, it's right at we're submitting an unexpected event from port to port, okay? Basically, whether it's source location or destination location, and once you're done, you just click on report and it submits the event. Remember also that you can add notes, event reason for each individual event that you're submitting. So if it's expected, click event reason and write your message here. You remember how in CCP, anything you add to the event is reflected in CCP. Any event you submit is reflected in CCP. Okay, comments for the events here. Generic notes in the notes tab. Okay, remember we had a tab that was called notes that we're basically using if we click on insert to add notes that are specific to the freight order in general. Any type of note that we want to make sure that the vendor freight forwarder is looking at. In our case, if it's UNAMA, let's say it's Minurso, who's doing the transportation, and there's only one planner doing all the work, maybe there's no need for notes unless you just want to use the notes as something to keep in mind, right, for later. Then you want to keep it in TM. The same thing for the attachments. Attachments, here's where we could add our new SOW form that we edited and uploaded, or any attachments that are linked to any specific events, like documents that you want to attach and keep in TM for this specific freight order. So for all events that go from a main carriage, so that go from a port to port or airport to airport, which is what this one is describing here, you're basically adding all the documents that are linked to this freight order, which is from Brindisi port to Marin port, I think it was. Sorry for my lack of memory there. And you would be attaching all the documents there. Okay, so basically the event management is very simple. Execution tab is to submit the events. These are all the events that are going from the main carriage, right, from port to port, airport to airport, expected and unexpected. You would also add attachments under the attachments tab and add notes under the notes tab, the planner. So that's quite simple. This time, I don't have to show you the CCP system because basically you don't use it. So the less you complicate your learning, the better. If you want to take a look at what CCP was like just for an overview, on Friday, I'm going to show it again. Okay, but I have to close this session in the next 2-3 minutes. So I think if this is enough for you guys, fine. If not, maybe we can schedule another session for another review. You let me know. Has this been enough for you guys? Remember, this is recorded. I'm going to share this. We have another webcast tomorrow, and we have one on Friday again. So you let me know if you would like another session or you consider this to be enough information and you have this down packed.
So Brian, which session on Friday you're talking about?
This is for the webcast that we deliver to everybody, all hubs, all missions. The one we do in
Friday?
Teams. Friday and
Okay.
tomorrow as well.
Tomorrow as well? What time tomorrow?
Yes, we've been doing this all week, actually here in my calendar in Teams.
Yeah, because
I don't know.
we didn't get that. We attended last week one, but we didn't attend this week.
Are you getting the emails?
No.
So how did you get last week's but not this week's? Because I'm just copying and pasting the same address.
No, last week we just entered into Teams, and we were no, that was the BI was on Friday. That's different. But no, last week we were entering into Teams, and then we were just joining from the general one, not a specific one like the one you had with us today. We were joining the ones that were general for everybody, and then it was cancelled. And a couple of times, the one that we attended with Elena, and then the one you did, but the rest were cancelled, and then we didn't get any invitations after that. We only got for the BI, that was different with Danielle, and then if you could join us send us a link for tomorrow. We can join as well for tomorrow and after tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'm going to send it to the Minurso TM working group. Okay, I'm going to send it there.
Yes.
All right, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to do that as soon as I hang up. I'll add it there.
Yeah. Okay, and then we'll join all tomorrow, so they can join the webcast. And what time is it tomorrow?
It's at 11.